The United States represents less than 5% of the world's population. Yet when the Federal Reserve changes interest rates, businesses in Brazil react. Governments in Africa panic. Factories in Asia slow down. And billions of people feel the impact. How can a currency printed by one country influence almost every nation on Earth? The answer reveals one of the most powerful systems ever created. And most people don't even realize they're living inside it. The US dollar is more than money. It's the engine behind global trade, the backbone of international finance, and arguably America's greatest source of power. But this system didn't happen by accident. It was built over decades through wars, political deals, economic crises, and strategic decisions that transformed a national currency into the world's currency. By the end of this video, you'll understand how the dollar came to dominate the global economy, why countries keep depending on it, and why some nations are desperately trying to escape its grip. Because the future of global power may depend on what happens next. A world without a global currency. For most of history, there was no dollar empire. There wasn't even a single global currency. Countries traded using gold, silver, or whatever money happened to be trusted at the time. International trade was slow, complicated, and often unreliable. Then came the 20th century, and two events changed everything. World War I and World War II. Europe emerged devastated. Cities destroyed, industries crippled, governments drowning in debt. Meanwhile, one country stood in a very different position. The United States. Its factories were booming, its economy was growing, and perhaps most importantly, America held most of the world's gold. But how does gold lead to global financial dominance? The answer begins in a small town in New Hampshire. The meeting that changed the world. In 1944,
representatives from 44 countries gathered at Bretton Woods. The world needed a new financial system. Something stable, something predictable, something that could rebuild global trade. The agreement they reached would shape the next century. Currencies would be linked to the US dollar, and the dollar would be linked to gold. $35 could be exchanged for 1 ounce of gold. This made the dollar the center of the financial universe. Countries trusted it because it was backed by gold. Businesses used it because everyone else used it. Governments stored it because it seemed safe. A powerful network effect had begun. But there was a problem hidden beneath the surface. And eventually, that problem would explode. The dollar crisis nobody saw coming. As the global economy expanded, countries needed more dollars. More trade meant more demand. More growth meant more dollars circulating around the world. But there was a catch. America could only issue so many dollars if each one was backed by gold. The system started stretching beyond its limits. Foreign governments began asking a dangerous question. What if America didn't actually have enough gold? Pressure kept building. Until finally, in 1971, President Richard Nixon made a decision that shocked the world. He ended the dollar's link to gold. Just like that. The foundation of the Bretton Woods system disappeared. For many economists, this should have been the end of dollar dominance. After all, if dollars weren't backed by gold anymore, why would anyone keep trusting them? Something unexpected happened. The dollar became even more powerful because America found a new anchor. Oil. Secret deal that
changed everything. In the 1970s, the world depended on oil. Economies ran on it. Industries needed it. Transportation couldn't function without it. America reached a crucial agreement with Saudi Arabia. Oil would be sold globally in US dollars. In return, Saudi Arabia received security guarantees and political support. Soon, other oil-producing nations followed. The consequences were enormous. If Japan wanted oil, it needed dollars. If Germany wanted oil, it needed dollars. If India wanted oil, it needed dollars. Suddenly,
every country had a reason to hold large reserves of U.S. currency. This system became known as the petrodollar, and it created a constant global demand for dollars, even though those dollars were no longer backed by gold. But oil was only part of the story. A much larger mechanism was quietly developing. The hidden machine. Today, the dollar dominates global finance. Most international trade is conducted in dollars. Many commodities are priced in dollars. A huge portion of global debt is issued in dollars. And central banks around the world hold massive dollar reserves. Think about what this means. A company in South Korea may borrow dollars. A government in Argentina may owe dollars. A manufacturer in Vietnam may buy materials using dollars. The global economy became deeply connected to one currency. This created an extraordinary advantage for the United States. America can borrow money more cheaply than many other countries. It can run larger deficits, and it can finance spending in ways others cannot. But perhaps the greatest source of
Power isn't economic, it's geopolitical. Because controlling the world's financial highways gives you influence over everyone using them. And that's where the story becomes even more controversial. The power of financial control. Imagine the global financial system as a giant network of roads. Most countries need access. Most businesses depend on it. Now imagine one nation controls many of the key intersections. The United States can impose financial sanctions, restrict access to dollar transactions, and pressure institutions that rely on the global banking system. This power has been used repeatedly over the years. Supporters argue it helps enforce international rules. Critics argue it gives America enormous leverage over other nations. Either way, one fact remains. The dollar's dominance extends far beyond economics. It influences politics, diplomacy, and global power itself. But every empire eventually faces challenges, and the dollar is no exception. Rising challenge. In recent years, more countries have started asking uncomfortable questions. What happens if relying on the dollar becomes a risk? What happens if access can be restricted? What happens if another system emerges? Countries like China have spent years promoting alternatives. Some nations have increased gold purchases. Others have experimented with trading in local currencies. International alliances have discussed reducing dependence on the dollar.